There are many different types of holes. Little holes, big holes, donut holes, the 2003 Disney classic, the one I left in your heart by not uploading for a month, or this one, which I made in my hardcore world. But why? Well, besides the fact that I can't seem to pick a sustainable project in Minecraft, this hole marks the start of my biggest project ever. Here are the goals. Step 1, make the largest hole possible. Step 2, build every important farm inside of that hole. And then step 3, build an entire civilization inside of the hole. Oh, this is gonna take hundreds of hours. Oxford Dictionary defines a witch as an edible North Atlantic flatfish that is of some commercial value. And I don't know what that means. But what I do know is that in Minecraft, there are these things called witch huts. And in these huts, you can find a pretty cute black cat. Now you see, my cats in real life are gray, kind of gray, and orange, but I'm a curious man and I've always secretly wanted a pet black cat. So the first thing to do today is find the witch hut and adopt a new kitten. Finding one of these witch huts should be easy, but it's not, kind of. You see, they spawn pretty regularly inside of swamp biomes, so you're probably thinking, oh, Brock, I'm so smart, why don't you just go to a swamp? But no, hey, no. You cut that out. You see, my hardcore world must have been created by Lord Farquaad himself, because I haven't seen a single swamp in a 4,000 block radius from my spawn. I set off searching. I found a forest, an ocean, another forest, a big cave, and then I killed these sheep. Why did I kill these sheep? It doesn't matter. It's a distraction. I was beginning to get worried. What if I can't find a swamp? And then the craziest thing happened. Yeah, I found one. There it was, the witch hut, aka the adoption center for my new pet. Immediately, I killed the original owner to possess full stake of the property, and there it was. I love you, I will make you mine. But he didn't love me. I guess he was just hungry though, because after feeding him a fish, he immediately became my best friend. Right away, I tested the intelligence of my friend by luring him towards lava and ensuring he could teleport like I read online. And then I moved him far away to a safe area, because what if I told you I was about to destroy his homeland? You see, the witches that spawn inside of these huts drop lots of useful items like sticks, glass, bottles, glowstone, spider eyes, gunpowder, potions, and most importantly, redstone. And if I can find a way to farm these witches, that will mean I'll have a renewable source of redstone, meaning I can build a ton of automatic farms without ever having to go mining again. Now, disclaimer, if you really want lots of redstone, then just go mining for like 2 hours and don't do what I do under any circumstances. But the problem with farming witches is that there are too many other dark places on the surface and in caves below spawning mobs. So that's where this massive hole comes from. If I can remove a 256 by 256 square centered around the hut, then I will be able to farm witches like it is my job. Literally. After outlining the perimeter, I had the devastating realization that I'm a dummy dum-dum. Blowing up this swamp is going to require insane amounts of TNT, which doesn't work in water. Normally that wouldn't be a big deal, but I chose the swamp with the most amount of water ever. So yes, for step number 2 in this project, I need to drain this entire swamp. You guys, I am excited to announce that I have officially started a second channel with even more Minecraft content, and my first long play is live right now. So whether you want to see more content from me, or hell, even if you're just tired of hearing my voice, I get it, yeah, you should definitely go check that out. But I had a plan. So using a tool called Chunkbase, I entered my seed to find the exact locations of 12 ocean monuments. If I'm lucky, each one of these should have at least one sponge room, so based on that, I'm hoping for about 6 stacks of sponges. Also, side note, I don't really care that you think this is cheating because I am an adult. But looting these monuments is a little bit dangerous. Each one is packed with 3 Elder Guardians who have a ton of health, make it so I can't mine, and also kind of look like that scary fish from Finding Nemo who gave me nightmares as an 8-year-old. So that sucks. Not to mention the entire place is filled with laser shooting guardians. I had to be fast. If I could get to the topmost point of the temple soon enough, I could bust through and kill the first Elder Guardian before the mining fatigue even set in. From there, I just had to search around like a lost child for the other 2 Elder Guardians until finally I could begin the real search for the sponge rooms. I found them pretty easily most of the time, so I was spending a lot of time just scrolling on Twitter, which, speaking of Twitter, you should follow me there. I saw a bunch of stupid things when I was looting these monuments. I mean, for instance, here there were 2 Elder Guardians inside of the ceiling. Or here, where there was a literal drowned ruin inside of the monument. I don't even know how this is possible. And speaking of stupid, after the 6th monument, I ran out of food and forgot more from home. So I had to kill these fish and loot around for a while. But then I found another god apple, so who's stupid now? Yeah, it's still me. I finished looting the remaining monuments and headed home. And in total, I found nearly 8 stacks of sponges, which was way more than I projected and a massive W. Now, I use sand to section off parts of water because it's easy to gather and sinks, which makes it easy to place in a lot of. And then after sectioning off a little box, I just had to go back through spamming sponges until bam, the water was gone. Now, doing that just along the surface of the swamp was daunting enough as a task, but pair that with the fact that many of these sections opened up into massive water caves below meant that I was in way over my head. The only thing keeping me sane was the satisfaction of watching sand fall on my torches, but even that was getting a little bit old. A couple of hours later, with very little progress to show, the first day of this project was coming to an end. But I woke up with a new plan. A plan so big brain that its odds of success were minuscule. So earlier that morning, I found a design on YouTube for an automatic water removal machine and thought, hey, what the heck, I could use that for some of the deeper water sections. So I spent the first 2 hours of my day building this machine and prepping the area. It was go time. I turned it on and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was actually working. And then the craziest thing happened. No, not really. It just broke. I think it was just designed for an earlier version of Minecraft. That was sad. I got back to work by hand, testing out some less complex technology that kind of worked, kind of didn't work. But one thing was apparent at this point. The swamp will not drain itself. Literally, like I just tried that and it didn't work. By hour number 5, the surface was 25% drained, meaning that if I maintain this pace, I can expect it to take 20 hours to finish. That was unacceptable. I had to be faster. Back to work I got, and you know the drill. Sand, sponge, dry, cry. Sand, sponge, dry, cry. Say it with me. Sand, sponge, dry. Okay, I'm done. By the end of hour 8, I was over halfway done draining. And to celebrate, I removed all of the trees in the area to throw a massive party with all my friends. Nobody showed up. This is a single player world and I'm delusional. I cried myself to sleep to end day 2 of this project. Day 3, 10 hours into the swamp draining. I was 75% done. I could see the finish line, and by hour 12, the last of the sponges were placed in. Flying around to see all of the water gone in this swamp really helped set in just how large this project was. I still had a ton of work to do, but right now I was happier than Shrek himself. Alright, just a little update. So things are going pretty good over here. I've adopted a new pet, and I've also removed all of the water in this swamp. But this is just the beginning. Now it's time for phase 3, where I plan to blow up this entire area from the surface all the way down to bedrock. Yeah, I still don't really know how I'm going to do this. So when it comes to destroying this area, I have a couple of options. Firstly, and theoretically, I could mine it by hand, but we're talking something like 9 million blocks, so that's a no for me. No, I'm not doing that. Which leads me to TNT. I would need to craft TNT in the tens of thousands to do this manually. But my creeper farm is not cut out for that, and don't even get me started on how much sand that would be. Luckily, there's one better option. About a year ago, I made a video where I blew up the entire end island using a redstone machine that flies back and forth, duplicating TNT and causing mass destruction. With a similar idea in mind, I went to YouTube where I found this video by Pixiels, which is like the perfect technical guide for destroying your Minecraft world. I didn't even know such a thing existed. I began collecting slime blocks, redstone, observers, pistons, coral fans. Why would I need coral fans? It didn't matter. The imposter syndrome was high today. I was a redstone man, and whether I liked it or not, I would be one for the next 30 hours. This machine is tileable, which is basically a fancy word for expandable, which is a fancy word for I can make it as big or as small as I want. At first I chose small. You see, my self-confidence in this moment was at an all-time low, so I wanted to minimize my embarrassment when I inevitably messed this up. Right now, I decided it would be best to cover the witch hut in a thick layer of obsidian before doing any exploding, just to make sure I didn't lose track of where it was. That would honestly be really embarrassing, but I wouldn't put it past me. And with that, my friends, we are ready to turn on the machine. So I've gone ahead here and just built one of these modules, which is going to blow up basically from here all the way over that way in a straight line. I want to make sure this actually works before I go too crazy here. But yeah, I think the last thing to do is just quite literally place a torch right here. And here we go. The machine is off. Don't get too close though. That would be bad. And the machine actually worked. Kind of. Oh, it didn't work though. Why is one of these not working? But after just one pass through, it was apparent that there was a whole new problem. Already I had exposed a few pretty sizable water caves, which meant that my days of sponge draining were far from over. And if this was any indication of what the rest of the terrain would look like, then I had some serious work cut out for me. I spent the next full hour just removing all of the water before I could even run the machine again. After 45 minutes more of removing water and running the machine, I was left with a pretty sizable trench. And because this trench was basically flat, that just meant the TNT had reached its fall limit before exploding. This was just the beginning. Although this was kind of a turning point for me, because even though I had so much work to do still, I could now start to envision what this would look like when it was done. It was time to expand the machine. The next day, I AFK'd at my slime farm, but then it just stopped working, so that's pretty cool. I still didn't have enough slime balls, so I had to resort to killing slimes by hand in the swamp. Not really ideal, but it did work for the time being. From there, I was able to build another machine, this time covering half the area. I removed the platform and put in the finishing touches. Wait, what the heck? Why is this thing still going? I don't even understand. The self-confidence that I didn't have yesterday was now at an all-time high. I was a new man, PhD in redstone. I turned the machine on. The first pass through, it worked, but then I noticed something absolutely terrible. Yeah, I didn't build the return station. Oh my god, I'm a fool. 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 Guys, what do I do? What? What do I do? No, I messed up. I'm an idiot. I'm such an idiot. It was too late. The damage was done. Most of the machines ended up colliding with nearby terrain and blowing themselves up. The rest of them I had to go hijack over the ocean. Cleaning up the remains alone took nearly an hour, and I lost so many useful redstone components. This was a massive setback. I felt like a failure. I distracted myself by removing some more water. Placing down sponges was getting really old, but it was honestly all that I felt I was good at. Eventually, I gained the courage to rebuild the machine, and after triple checking everything, I turned it on. It finally worked, and I spent the next 2 hours running the machine and removing even more water caves until everything was destroyed. But it was time to speed things up. Right now, I was a full week into this project, and there was a ton of work to do. But the good news was that by now, I had the blueprint pretty much memorized for how to build one of these machines. I was lightning fast. My confidence was back, baby. At least it was until I hit the largest roadblock yet. This is officially the biggest water cave, not only that I've encountered so far on this project, but that I've actually ever seen in my entire life. I have literally no idea how I'm going to get rid of all this water. I actually feel like I'm going to throw up right now just looking at this. At first, I just kind of tried to ignore it and remove any other small pockets of water that I could find and then run the machine again. But one thing was very clear. I wasn't destroying this area until all of that water was gone. For some perspective, an ocean monument covers a 58 by 58 block area. And this cave was basically that size. So think of it like this. In the midst of this giant project, I basically had to drain an entire ocean monument as a side quest. That's not cool, dude. Right away, I figured it'd be best to revisit the idea of using technology to help me out. To start things off, I went back home. I turned every last piece of cobblestone that I had into furnaces, which I used to build up a retaining wall along the edge. You see, furnaces cannot get pushed by flying machines, and this was way cheaper than using obsidian. That was the start. Now to look at the manual, and by that I mean go back to YouTube. I found these pretty simple, compact designs for a water remover block pusher thing from Ray's work that goes back and forth, sequentially removing one layer of water at a time. It was slow, but more importantly, it worked. About an hour later, I had 2 of the machines running at once, and I could focus on removing the other annoying caves by hand. After 2 whole hours of work, I only had about 10 layers of water removed. It wasn't the machine's fault, it was my fault. You see, these machines were really designed to get rid of water and lava pockets that you find near the bottom of your world, not entire oceans. I needed a new plan. Back to the drawing board. And by drawing board, yes, I mean YouTube again. I decided to revisit the water remover design design that failed me earlier in the video. But this time I paid closer attention and noticed a very kind individual left a comment explaining how to fix the machine for current versions of Minecraft. It wasn't much, but it was enough to convince me to give it a try. I spent the rest of that night painstakingly prepping the area and building the machine. I was so scared. I had way too much invested. This had to work. Nervously, I turned the machine on, and to my pleasant surprise, it actually was working. I couldn't believe my eyes. I removed more water over the course of the next 15 minutes than I had in the previous 4 hours. I was the happiest boy in this swamp by a long shot. Also the only boy in this swamp, but that's not the point. Even with the redstone machines, draining this water cave still took nearly 6 hours alone. And after that, it took 2 more hours to remove the remaining water sections. But finally, on the end of day 10 of this project, I had cleared the rest of the area. Right now, it might look like I was done blowing up this hole. I wish that was the case, but the truth is, I wasn't even down to deep slate level yet. So now I had to rebuild all of the machines lower in the world and basically do everything over again. This time, it would require digging. I spent my morning clearing space in the walls to insert haze tube beacons. I blew up some area, dug out a trench, tore down part of the machine above, and rebuilt it. I was a lot closer to the ground now, which meant a higher chance of TNT sabotaging my plans, so I wanted to do some more testing at first. I'm glad I did, because it didn't work. So I rebuilt it higher. Surely it would work this time. It did. And the best part, there was almost no water down in the deep slate level. I couldn't believe it. An hour later, I had yet another trench blown up. By hour 3, I got a little cocky and forgot to build the return station. It's actually crazy how little my intelligence increased over the course of this project. Not to mention I had exposed the lower section of that massive water cave from earlier. But there was a new challenge. At this point, the machine had exposed a pretty big lava cave. This was new to me, but I did know what to do. I saw a while back that you can actually use scaffolding to remove large amounts of lava, and I wanted to give that a try. To my surprise, it actually worked really well. However, it was clear that this lava pool was bigger than I thought. I even had to make a makeshift bamboo farm near me just to keep up with my scaffolding usage. This puppy ended up being nearly 15 blocks deep, but finally it was gone. A third trench was done, and then a fourth. I continued digging more trenches to build more machines. My sanity was gone at this point. So were my slime blocks. I swear to God, if I find out which one of you stole my slime, just kidding, I blew them up. It turns out at this point, I was pretty much low on every redstone component actually. Luckily for me, I basically had a slime farm in the hole now, and after a quick trip to the nether for some quartz and paying my clerics a quick visit, I was back in business. Oh, also, more coral fans. I still don't know what the heck these are used for. The other side was not as forgiving. There was a ton more water to remove. No matter what I did, it seemed to be there. Here's what I want you to do. Leave a comment guessing how many sponges I placed down during this project, and I will pin whoever is closest. Finally, my friends, we are down another set of layers on this perimeter project. Honestly, I haven't even recorded a clip in like at least 5 days because I don't even know what to do. This is just so boring. By now, I was down to Y level -36, which meant that if I built the entire machine one more time, then I could make it all the way down to bedrock. I was on the home stretch. 2 weeks of work leading to this very moment. I dug one final trench to build the last machine. Tearing down the old machine, however, was proving to be a little bit difficult. Luckily, my brain's pretty big, so I gathered some ice and made some water streams to collect everything down in one place at the bottom. It was time to rebuild. My patience was thin. I wanted to build the entire machine at once for a grand finale. No going back now. It was done. Shaking with excitement and lots of nervousness that I messed the redstone up, I turned it on. This was by far my biggest redstone stunt ever, and overall it was a success. However, there was lava and obsidian everywhere, so after 3 more hours of removing all of that, I was able to run the machine one final time, and with that, the world was removed. You guys, I am so happy right now. This has been over 2 weeks in the making so far. Just to recap, I've got a new pet, I've drained the swamp, and finally I have made this massive hole. I actually can't believe how large this is. All of that to lead into phase phase 4, which I actually almost forgot about. I was literally about to do the outro. But no, we have a witch farm to make. I didn't waste any time. That obsidian platform I built earlier was a lifesaver. I was lightning fast. Even though I've never actually built a witch farm before, I felt like at this moment I knew everything about them. Okay, yeah, I was just following a tutorial. It's a design by Il Mango, and it works pretty good. I'd very much recommend it. The swamp was drained, the hole was created, and the witches were farming. I was so excited that there was only one thing I could think to do. I had to tell my cat. He would be so proud. All of this work for him. So I flew up out of the hole and rushed across the field. My world came crashing down when I saw the string. He had been murdered.